Hi, my name is Yilin Zhang, Team Rayceen Productions host and moderator. Joining us is Karim Marshall. Hi, Karim. Welcome.
Hey, Yilin. Thanks for the introduction and thanks for the time. Really happy to join you guys.
Thank you for making the time in your busy campaign schedule to be here today. So would love to get started with you talking a little bit about your background and experiences.
Okay, awesome. So I'm a first-time candidate. I'm typically a person who mostly focuses on policy. So what I like to talk about when I introduce myself is who I am and where I'm from. I'm a third-generation Washingtonian. I'm a lawyer by trade, a product of DCPS, and thanks to the education that I got with the public school system in the District of Columbia, I was able to attend Dartmouth College and American Law School and do well at both. I came out, I got barred in the state of Maryland and District of Columbia, and I worked for the district government for 12 years as a lawyer, as a legislative director, and as a person who's actually advanced equitable development, housing projects, and developments east of the river. My vision for the city is really straightforward. I just want to make sure that people like me, Native Washingtonians, and anyone else who chooses to make the District of Columbia their home, it's their forever place. And that means making sure that our streets are safe, that our education system works for all of our learners, and most importantly, we have enough housing to actually make sure that people have the ability to stay here so that they don't have to leave or break the bank in order to find a house that works for them.
Wonderful. Thank you, Karim. So you're running for at-large DC council member. Can you tell us about why you're running for this position and why this year?
So we have a 2-year-old daughter, and like a lot of families who came out of the pandemic, we had a reassessment of what was most important to us. Our daughter was born 2 weeks after the work from home order, so we got to spend about 20 months working with her remotely. And while it was really stressful, handing her off between a meeting that I would have or a meeting that my wife would have, one of the great things that we got to do was that we had the opportunity to read to her all the time. Like I was reading her briefs, I was reading her draft documents. My wife also has a reading intensive job. So whenever we were reading something, she was hearing something. And having that amount of time and that benefit to be able to focus on her intently and focus on her cognitive development made us realize that like not every family in the city has this opportunity. So now that we're starting to think about what it looks like to send her through the lottery system or send her to a private school, the disparities and opportunities become all the more stark. If you've got money in this city, if you make more than $200,000 for a family of 4, you're probably going to be okay, even if the district government is wildly inept or wildly incompetent. But if you're making 52,000 or less for a family of 4, whenever the government makes a mistake, it can be disastrous on your life. So the fact that our education system is based off of chance and not equity, the fact that the people who are in charge of overseeing the deployment of affordable or low income housing to the people who need it the most, the fact that they're just completely asleep at the switch, I think our residents deserve the best. And I know that the 12 years of experience that I have in working for the district government will allow me to go in as a council member and not just write good laws, but it'll allow me to be creative and it'll allow me to train staff that'll be really good as well. So I know I've watched the DC Council for a long time. And one of the shortcomings that they have is that they're more interested in waiting for the mayor to make a mistake as opposed to being bold and creative and thoughtful and thorough when they come up with solutions. And I know that I can bring those characteristics to the council. So that's why I'm running.
Thank you so much, Karim, and appreciate you and your campaign team sharing that beautiful photo of your family. We just were able to share it. So speaking of education, can you elaborate on your top 3 issues, what you hope to change?
Yeah, so I think at base, we need to be talking about these issues like they're interrelated because they are. When we talk about housing availability, you're talking about stabilizing a neighborhood. And if we had enough housing in these neighborhoods that would be accessible to various income levels, we wouldn't have these concentrations of wealth and opportunity in certain neighborhoods. So when I talk about creating enough housing, I'm talking about creating enough housing so that it's affordable for all income levels. I don't think about housing from the perspective of income brackets. I think about it from the perspective of housing burden like HUD does. HUD says that if you spend more than 30% of your housing, if you spend more than 30% of your salary on housing, you are cost burdened. And I think we need to make sure that we are building enough in housing throughout the district so that there are options at every price point, be that for people who can't afford to pay anything at all. So if we're talking about publicly owned housing options versus luxury housing, if you actually can afford it and it's not more than 30% of your income, then there should be a space for you in most neighborhoods as well. But if we have these neighborhoods that are mixed income, suddenly that also affects education, because we don't just have concentration of the wealthy families with resources in one part of town that have the opportunity to not just use good public schools, but they also have the ability to supplement their public schools with additional resources from their personal networks. I want to be able to make that type of supplementation available across the city, but that means making sure that we have neighborhoods that can accommodate all income levels. And then finally, this is the issue that kind of hangs behind everything. Everyone is worried about the rate of crime in the district. And we got to stop pretending like crime exists in a vacuum. Somebody doesn't pick up a gun or decide to rob somebody just because it's Tuesday. They've made a relatively thoughtful choice about what their odds are. And if they think they have a future, if they think they have the ability to be successful, they're not going to pick up that gun. They're going to pick up whatever they think is the tool to their future, be that a book, be that a pair of clippers, be that whatever their business is. They're going to be more concerned about building their future than they are about going out and taking from somebody else. But because we completely disinvested from a vocational training or any kind of option to the future that doesn't involve college, we have an entire group of the population that doesn't see themselves fitting into that model. And because of that, they're willing to do whatever it takes to put food on their table. And frankly, they're no different than any of us. So if I didn't have a college degree from an Ivy League college and a law degree, I might make different decisions about how I'm going to feed my family. And I think we have to get away from the notion of thinking that we're better than them, because a lot of this is just situational. So we have to make sure that we're providing the options, the opportunities, the skills that are necessary in order to make sure that people are equipped to be able to make good decisions.
Yeah, I appreciate you speaking about your extensive legislative experience and really the interconnectedness between all of the issues, that really systemic change is required. And speaking of which, so tell us why you are the best choice for voters for at-large DC council member.
Absolutely. So while I've spent the last few minutes talking about my qualifications, I'm actually really low ego. I've worked for 3 different mayors, and up until I decided to run, nobody knew what bills I worked on, but I've worked on major bills. Like I wrote the Second Sustainable DC Act. I've written 2 amendments to the Air Quality Act. I have a lot of legislation out there. And one of the things that you get from being a legislative director is you're more focused on the process and creating a high quality product than you are in making sure that you're in a press release. I am wholly willing as a junior council member to make sure that my other colleagues have the opportunity to shine. And right now we've got a bunch of council members that are either more focused on reelection or running for higher office or getting into a conflict with the executive. And that sort of predominance of ego actually prevents them from being effective. As a council member, I can promise you, I can promise all your watchers and listeners that the most important thing to me is going to be positive outcomes for the city. And if that means that somebody else gets credit for something that I worked hard on, I'm fine with that. But what it does also mean is that the lives are better for the people who live in this city. And that's the most important piece to me.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Karim. And here I want to share a photo of you and your team and your volunteers. How has the campaign experience been for you?
It's been great. We walk a lot.
Absolutely.
We do a lot of walking. We knock on a lot of doors. And honestly, the best part about this whole experience is talking to voters about issues that affect them. When I knock on a door, it doesn't matter how tired I am when someone comes to the door and they say, look, the DC government is a hopeless cause. I don't even know why you're doing this. I don't think that anything can happen. The first thing I do is I completely acknowledge the fact that they have every right to be skeptical of the district government, every single right. Like we've got a ton of failures. The newspapers are always filled with things that we're not doing right. And in a lot of ways, when you interact with the government, it's because something went wrong and you're looking for somebody to fix the system. I have a ton of experience making a broken system work for the people who need it the most. But one of the things I'm really excited about is the ability to take that experience and use it to actually fix some of these root cause issues that have led to systemic disappointment, that's led to people disengaging completely from government and believing that it doesn't really matter, because it does matter. Like, if you've got good people on the council, they have the ability to provide solutions and to work with the mayor to create positive impact and positive solutions. But if you've just got a bunch of people who are interested in either being a toady or being a conflict person, then you're not really going to have any positive outcomes. You have to have people that are more solution oriented, that are trying to make the city a better place.
Absolutely. Well, just several more weeks. I'm sure your team is counting down. So when does voting begin?
So you already have ballots in your mailboxes right now. You should be able to actually go to your mailbox right now. And if you haven't gotten your mail-in ballot, that's a good reason for you to check your registration status. My wife and I have already received our mails, but we're a little old school, so we're going to vote the day of. But if you are interested in voting early, right, like as soon as the ballot drop box is open on the 14th, you can drop your mail-in ballot in that day if you want. But if you want to vote in person early, that all starts on October 31st, and that period goes through November 6th. And then there's a day where nobody's voting. And then election day is November 8th, that Tuesday. So it depends on what you want to do. If you want to vote by mail, you can start that on the 14th. If you want to vote in person early, that starts on the 31st, Halloween, and it runs through the 6th. And if you want to actually
Great. So number of different ways to vote here. And Karim, so for at-large DC council member, voters can vote for 2.
Yes.
Who have you endorsed or would like to cast your second vote to?
So I actually know who that is, but we've had a little bit of difficulty in getting clarity from Board of Elections as far as how I can say this. I'm still waiting for guidance, but I am going to use my second vote. I will, as soon as I have the clarity from Board of Elections as far as how I can make that public, whether or not it has to be me as Kareem Marshall, or if candidate Marshall can say something, I'll definitely let you guys know. But for right now, I would just say make sure that people remember that they have 2 votes, particularly east of the river. Our neighborhoods tend to undervote at a disproportionately high rate, and that's why we don't see candidates after the June primary, because the presumption is you campaign over here for the primary and then you just let it ride for the general election. But it's really important that voters east of the river use that second vote so that we can exercise our political presence. We're campaigning in all 8 wards. I am particularly partial to Ward 7 and Ward 8 because I was born on this side of the city and I live here now. But I think if we're really going to be serious about making sure that this city is treating all of its parts equitably, we have to make sure that everybody is involved in the political process.
Thank you, Kareem. Yes, very important to cast 2 votes here for at-large council member. And viewers, wherever you are, if you'd like to gain more information on voter registration, voter information, please check out headcount.org. And lastly, we would love to end with Kareem. How can voters learn more about your campaign and support your campaign?
So we love our volunteers. We have a great time out in the field. If you're interested in getting out and walking with us, we definitely have a neighborhood and a time for you. You can learn more about the campaign at marshall4dc.com, 4 is spelled out. And if you're interested in interacting with us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, we're on all 3 platforms as Marshall4DC. My team and I try to get a response to you as quickly as possible. We're really, really concerned about making sure that we elevate the status of discourse in the district. So as to the extent that we can, we talk in detail. But if you want to have a really detailed conversation, show up at one of the coffee shop things that we do on Wednesday or Friday mornings. I love talking about policy. And I know most candidates try to give like a quick soundbite answer and then move on. But I think if we're really going to solve any of these problems, we can't be afraid of having these detailed conversations.
Wonderful. Well, I love coffee. I love policy. That sounds like a great mix to me, and they will get to meet you. And so viewers, you can find the links that Karim mentioned in the description below. And thank you so much, Karim Marshall, for at-large DC council member. Thank you, Karim.
Thank you guys so much, and everyone have a great day.
Viewers, please follow Team Rayceen on social media and subscribe to the Team Rayceen YouTube channel. Most of all, thank you for watching.